Hi, and thanks for tuning in to this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. Before I get into this week's show and find myself up against the clock as I normally am when I do this show, let me start by giving a thank you to Acacia St. John. We had put In Focus on hiatus for a few weeks, just trying to catch our breath, catch up on some other work. I asked Acacia to host the first show out of that hiatus, and she did that very well. And I thank her for that. That will not be the last time you see Acacia as a guest host here on In Focus, and it will not be the last time we have a guest host. Our plan is to continue to ask community members to have conversations with friends, coworkers, and other people who have some interesting thoughts to share with you. I also need to thank Steve Hayes Jr., Executive Director of Hayes Arboretum, and Ann Herman, volunteer and board member, for the work that they put into last week's show, which was focused on Hayes Arboretum and pollinators. And if you missed either Acacia's show or the show last week with Steve and Ann, you can find those on WGTV's Facebook page. It's the Whitewater Community Television Facebook page. You can also find them on WGTV Online, our video on demand and live streaming site. The address for that is wgtv.vibit.com, and you'll be able to find that and a lot of other meetings. Again, we appreciate them being willing to do that. During the 2020 primary and general election season, we were really just beginning to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. We were not able to do our In Focus candidate forums as we normally do, which is to invite candidates and contested races into the studio, give them a chance to interact with the moderator as well as with you with questions. Things have calmed down a bit this year. This is our first election back since that 2020 time period, and our In Focus candidate forums will begin in earnest. They will be as they were live here in the studio on Thursday evenings beginning April 7th. We'll provide more information on those coming up in a while, but please prepare yourself as possible. It's a little late to get registered to vote, but when that opens up again for the general election, we'll be sure to provide you with that information. I want to once again thank Hometown Media Group and the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, who have been and will be again this year our partners in the In Focus Candidate Forum. So thank you to them. Now to focus on this week's program. In late February, I had a chance to attend the Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting at a new exhibit at Cope Environmental Center. It's called Waterways, and it's an exhibit that has been brought in by the Smithsonian Institution. It will be at Cope Environmental Center until April 9th. If you have not had a chance to go out and see that exhibit, I do encourage you to do that. Water is a conversation that we're having throughout the community for various reasons, whether it's with the sanitary district, with the health department, with Cope Environmental Center, whether it's recreation, whether it's health. Water is very important to our lives. So I had a chance to go out and do that. And I had a chance while I was there to speak with Gail Connerley, who is the board president at Cope Environmental Center, and Karin Hostetter, who is their executive director. And this is a little bit of what they shared with me. Talk to me, if you can, about how this exhibit came to be. Yeah. Who approached? Did you all approach somebody? Did Smithsonian approach you? Yeah. And what has been the time frame kind of from starting the conversations to this point?
Oh, fantastic. So the Smithsonian and Indiana Humanities put together just a RFP, sent something out and said, you know, we're looking for places that want to do this. And Melissa Moran with the Nature Conservancy just sent it to me and said, you might be interested in this. And one of the main requirements is that it had to be in a community of less than 15,000 people. And so our location and address with Centerville fit perfectly. And except for the city of Richmond, all of the towns in Wayne County are less than 15,000. So we were reaching an audience in a lot of different ways that they were interested in. The Smithsonian does it to try to get high quality exhibits into rural areas so that wouldn't normally get to see that kind of exhibit. For us, because it was on water and our whole focus here on sustainability and being careful with our natural resources, it was just a perfect connection to what we're all about. And the other thing I liked is that here at on the grounds, we have several different kinds of waterways. We have an intermittent stream, we have a couple of ponds, and we have wetlands. So we're able to represent several different, right here, types of water on our programs that tied in with the exhibit. So
some of the programs that you all are running in relationship to water and its importance in this area, considering how an agricultural area is.
So one of the things that we wanted to do with the exhibit was to tie into the agricultural community, because it's not the strongest community that we're with. We're much stronger with individual households and school groups. So we wanted to tie into that. And one of the things we're doing is offering a 3-series day-long workshops called Women for the Land. It is an organization for women landowners, and they'll be coming out here and they work. It's a small group of like 12 people, and 12 to 15, and they work together. They go through it as a cohort so that when they're done with it, they've got each other to also fall back on and have continuing conversations with in managing the land. So we have that going on. We did a community art show. So what's exhibited right now, it's our second one. We did one last year. This year we chose the theme of water. So all of the pictures that people are putting together, that water had to be a central focus in whatever art they submitted to us. So we have photography, we have painting, we have a couple poems, we have music. A high school student wrote an amazing music piece. Yeah, that was really cool. We're doing a joint school field trip with the Wayne County History Museum on the power of water, and it's a trip down along the gorge where they get to see how water can power a factory. They can see how water carves landscapes and how water sustains life. So the plants and the animals that also need it. So we have that joint field trip going on. We have a trip for the community, for members to the Brookville Dam, Reservoir Dam, so they can see a little bit about the history of that and how its impact on the community, things along that line. We've got a guest speaker coming in talking about he's talking about the climate change and what's fact and fiction about climate change. So those are some of the things that we've got going on. We've got some other things that we still are trying to confirm a couple of things, but we have another guest speaker on mussels that we're trying to finish confirming. So we've tried to bring in a wide variety of things around water. We have a family water day on a Saturday where we're going to go out and muck around in the wetland and see what's living there, see what we've got, compare it to some known critters that live in it. We can compare, and you can determine based upon what you find whether your wetland is healthy or not healthy. So we're going to be doing that for families who want to get down with microscopes and mud and have some fun.
Just out of curiosity, you all work with adults as well as kids. Are you finding that the kids are sometimes helping teach the adults, particularly about water and that type thing? Are we as adults as knowledgeable about the water resources and sometimes even the lack thereof as we should be?
I don't think any of us are, no matter what our age, are as knowledgeable as we should be. I think part of it is because sometimes you hear messages so many times you tune them out. So like, conserve your water, turn it off when you brush your teeth. At some point you've heard that 1,000 times, and it's either what you do naturally or not, and then you don't hear that message anymore. So I think there's a lot of us that just need to keep being reminded a little bit about water. And the other thing that we've started to realize is how much more important water is to the health of a lot of other things. I mean, soil health affects water, but water health affects soil. Water health affects us. And I think here in Wayne County, one of the things that we're trying to really help people realize is a lot of people are still on wells. And so what are you doing to the water? What you do with the water that leaves your house is the same water that you're taking back in, some period of time later. It's seeping down, going into your your well system, and you're taking it back up. And a lot of people don't really realize that that's the cycle, and it's very closed right there on their property. So that's another piece.
Is there more that can happen in the community to help educate those of us who don't know, don't understand, haven't learned?
Right. Yeah, and it is. It's all the above. It's not that people don't want to. It's not that people can't. It's like, have you had the opportunity? Have you sought out? I think that it relies a lot on people saying, I want to learn more. Where can I get that? Can I read something? Can I seek out a place, like COPE and go take a course? Can I attend a lecture? It takes a lot of it, people having to seek it out and saying, I need to know more about it. We always can do our part too and just try to offer more and make sure that it's getting out, the fact that we are offering something that gets advertised to people so they can find it and come to us as a resource. There's a lot of other things people need to think about, is just what are they doing on their land? When and how much are they fertilizing? Are they using pesticides? It's not that you can't, but if you choose to do that, there's better times of the year to do it. There's better, before or after rainfalls, better products to use. So there's a lot of it. It's not just don't hurt the water. We need to do some of those other things, but there's better ways to do it. And so helping people learn about that as well.
People are hearing this, they're interested in connecting with you, trying to find out a little more, but they're not familiar with COPE. How do they reach out? What are your hours?
And in terms of open, we are available in the building to come talk to people, or our programs are offered Monday through Saturday, 9 to 4. Trails to explore our waterways and see what's out there are open dawn to dusk every day. We'll always have conversations with people, just one-on-one if they want to stop in, and we'll have conversations. We put most of our programming is listed on our Facebook page or our website calendar, so to see what it is that's being offered. We try to get them out there, but you know how easy it is to miss an advertising piece. So,
and what's your website?
It is COPE Environmental, all one word with 2 E's in the middle, copeenvironmental.org.
Is there a message that I haven't asked, or is there something that you really want the community to know about either this exhibit and or COPE Environmental as a whole?
I think that in terms of COPE Environmental, it's just that we are here, and please use us. Ask us questions about sustainable practices. That's what we are, we're about that. We're about learning about nature so that you understand it and want to protect it, and then asking us how you can do it. For different people are on different journeys. One person might be on a journey for how do I do better landscaping, what plants should I plant. Another person's on a journey of how do I reduce my electric impact and use solar. So the journeys that people are on are different, and to consider us, use us as a resource. We don't have all the answers, but we hope we have ways to connect you to other people. So that's in terms of what to know about COPE. I think that's a big message. One of the things that I've enjoyed with the exhibit is for people to just realize all the amazing things that water does in our life. It's something that we need it to survive. We need, we have to drink it as all life. We need it to survive. But it also brings beauty to our lives as it carves, things here. The Whitewater Gorge is, gorgeous, and it was carved by water.
Well, this exhibit for us is really important. One of the things that we try to do is educate folks through both research, hands-on kinds of sustainability learning, and also demonstration. And so this is a way that we can bring some information about water, both nationally and right here in our backyard, to the folks of Wayne County. Of course, you know, Jim and Helen Cope, our founders, and Francis Park were very well connected to Earlham College for so many years. And I also have the privilege of working with donors at Earlham, alumni and friends who create opportunities for students to do research in the community, to study off campus with faculty. And one of those projects that's being supported by Earlham donors, among many others in our city and inside of Earlham, is the project at Weir Dam. So a lot of research has gone into working on how the dam has affected ecosystems that live in the water there and what might need to happen. And so as we've seen in the news recently, the dam is going to be removed to preserve those ecosystems that need to live in fresh water and water that keeps moving. That project has been a wonderful project with both the City of Richmond, other researchers around the region, as well as Earlham faculty and Earlham students. The geology professors from Earlham are Andy Moore and his wife Shannon Hayes, and they've been working with a small group of students throughout the last year on that project.
Thanks again to Karin Hostetter and Gail Connerley for sharing some of their time with me. I also need to give a thanks to Ed Delapause, who wears many hats with multiple organizations, including CityLife.fyi, which is his own organization. Ed was really responsible for setting up the connection between myself and Karin and Gail for getting the footage that you just saw, so thanks to him. We're going to take a break and then continue our conversation about water as a resource for life and health with Christine Stinson, Executive Director of the Wayne County Health Department. That happens when In Focus continues on WGTV Channel 11.
Watch Wayne County Connection on WGTV Channel 11, Tuesdays at 6. Join me this month for the first in our Champions of Youth series when we talk about scouting with Everett Young, Jim Boxa, and Tara DeReese about scouting in Wayne County. Division Manager for the Eastern Area of Crossroads Council. We have Jim Boxa, who is the District Executive. Watch Wayne County Connection on WGTV Channel 11, Tuesdays at 6.
We all want to remain in our home, but sometimes obstacles in the environment stand in the way of our independence. Things like going up a few stairs can be insurmountable. Getting to the store can be complicated. Clearly hearing a speaker in order to be part of the conversation can be overwhelming. Everyday reading can be more stressful than relaxing. Even pouring coffee can turn into a hot mess when it is difficult to know how much liquid is in the cup. The Independent Living Center of Eastern Indiana is an information and resource center that empowers people with disabilities. Check us out and learn about what we offer to assist people who wish to remain independent and at home.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. Thank you very much for spending part of your time with me, whether you're watching this on Thursday evening on WGTV Channel 11, whether you're seeing the replays throughout the weekend, maybe you're watching on WGTV Online, our video on demand site, or maybe you're on a treadmill or just taking a walk on a Sunday morning and you're listening to the audio on 1490 AM, 1490 and 100.9 AM, WKBV, ESPN Radio, or their sister station, G1013 FM. We appreciate you spending some time with us talking about today water as a resource. Incredibly important in our lives. Sometimes I think it's something that we tend to take for granted and don't understand how sparse at times this resource is for us and how important it is for us. We've got with us Christine Stinson, someone who's been with us a lot over the last couple of years talking about COVID for the most part during her time here, and we will get an update with where things are with that, but that's not going to be the focus of our conversation. Focus of our conversation is really something that, as you and I have had a chance to talk over the last couple of years about something other than the pandemic, is one of the things that you have really focused on, the importance of water as a resource for life and health throughout Wayne County.
Correct. Yeah. It's been a real passion of mine is water protection and protecting all of our sources of water. There are when people think about water, we usually think about just our rivers and our streams,
right.
Because that's an easy thing. We see those, we see that and we think we got to protect that. Mm-hmm. But there are different sources of water that need our protection. There are groundwaters that we have to protect, right. And that's harder for people to get the concept of how to protect that, and it's harder to explain how to protect it, and so it's difficult for people to understand that it's just as important for you to do your part in protecting our groundwater sources as it is to protecting our surface water sources. And it's actually, all of our responsibilities. It's not...
When you talk about our groundwater sources, what specifically are you speaking of?
So there's different groundwater sources. There's aquifers, that contain groundwaters. There's confined aquifers and there's unconfined aquifers. We try to make sure that wells are driven down into confined aquifers. Confined aquifers are harder to get contaminated, although they can get contaminated. Mm-hmm. But we try to make sure that wells get driven deep enough that they're in a confined aquifer. Confined aquifers are usually protected by a layer of clay,
Okay.
And that kind of acts as a protective, almost like a membrane that doesn't allow the contaminants to get down in there. They're filtered through that clay, and clay acts as a really good filtration for pathogens, that don't get down into that confined aquifer. So that's where we want our drinking water wells to be down into.
Is that a fairly uniform depth, or does it depend on the ground that you're dealing with at the time?
Yeah, it's not uniformed. It's very undulating. It varies, just like the land that we're in, and so it's important that you work with a reputable and knowledgeable well driller, that understands, our area and our unique aquifers. Wayne County is very different than, the area of Indiana that I come from. I come from northern Indiana where you could, punch a straw and you could get water anywhere. We had an abundance of water in northern Indiana. Here, it's a little different. It's not so plentiful here, and your water aquifer is a little deeper to find good water in this area than it was up there. So I'm Looking into, making sure that I'm understanding your unique aquifers here, and not applying my same understanding and knowledge base, as I did up in northern Indiana here, But I come from I come from the world of public water supply. I worked at IDEM. I did inspections of public water supplies.
Okay.
So I have a very vast knowledge of drinking water. And so I want to make sure that residential drinking water is as protected as public water supplies. And I think that most people think that residential water is regulated and protected, but it's not. And I think that most people think that it is. There are no regulations that require a residential well to be tested, for a lot of contamination.
Really? I'm shocked by it. I really am.
Right.
I'm shocked by that. I would be one of the ones that would think, this is drinking water, this is public health, this is, if the government doesn't have, we keep going, we don't want the government to, the government should protect us in that way by having some type of regulation for our water sources.
I would too. I would too. In the county that I came from before coming here, I passed a ordinance, and I've just presented at our last board meeting an ordinance for Wayne County that would regulate the placement and testing for wells in Wayne County. So it's very similar. But when I passed the one in Marshall County, it was the 20th ordinance in Indiana regulating wells in Indiana. The 20th. We have 92 counties. So, at the time, and that was 3-4 years ago, only 20 counties are regulating wells. And that kind of shocks residents. They're like, you're kidding me. No one is looking. And so, when the well drillers, they have regulations, but they regulate how they drill the well. And they try very hard to make sure that they have that separation for septic systems, but they don't know where the septic system is. So we find...
What do you mean they don't know where the septic system is? Don't you find out where a septic system is before you drill a well? Question mark. I mean, I'm a city person. I've never lived on a well, so I'm asking hopefully a very basic question.
Yeah, well drillers don't ask us where the septic system is, and we are the office of record for septic systems. So, the homeowner may tell them where the tank is, but that's one component of the septic system. So oftentimes, when we are out there, we find, wells drilled 14 feet from septic systems. And, the regulation in Indiana is 50 feet. And, that's 14 feet away from your septic system is, awfully close. And there are a lot of diseases that are carried, in septic systems, and septic and seepage from septic systems that get into your well that can cause a lot of illness. E. coli only being one of the diseases that are carried, in sewage.
Does it make it harder when an area is more rural as opposed to more urban to be able to get that separation because of lot size more than anything else?
It's very difficult when you're in some of these developed little burgs, that are on septic systems, and the lot sizes are incredibly tiny. And they were allowed to develop way before, a lot of regulations. And if you know anything about a septic system,
And I know nothing about septic systems.
well, understand that a septic system is more than just a septic tank. A septic system is a tank and then a soil absorption field. And that can either be laterals, which are trenches, or it can be a sand bed, an elevated sand mound, or in Wayne County, these newer, smaller sand line systems. But a septic tank and a soil absorption field is what is required in Indiana. So whatever it is, it's a septic tank and an area for that.
Okay.
And that area has to be protected. You can't build a garage over the top of it. You can't have your driveway over the top of it. You can't have your swimming pool over the top of that. You can't have your goats over the top of that. You can't have, all of these other things that are seen in these little yards,
Right.
that we see them on. And so you think about just what I've described, the tank and the soil absorption field. Wayne County also has a high seasonal high water table. So you have to lower that seasonal high water table. So around that soil absorption field, 10 feet off of that, you have to have a perimeter drain that lowers that seasonal high water table. So now you have your tank, your soil absorption field, and 10 feet off of that, a perimeter drain that lowers that seasonal high water table. And you have to outlet that to get that water drawn away from your soil absorption field, not the sewage. That's why you have to have it 10 feet off of that. It's drawing down the seasonal high water table. So now think about, how for a 3-bedroom in the soils that we have, it's usually 1,500 square feet that you need for your soil absorption field.
Okay.
And you have to be 50 feet away for your well. Not only your well, now your neighbor's well, on both sides of it. And so usually it's very, very, it's a Tetris-y kind of a game.
Sure.
that you get to start playing, and a sickening feeling that you get when you think, I don't have room.
Yeah.
What do we do with this house now? There's no room for a septic system and the separation for drinking water. I can do what's called best judgment. So maybe I can shrink the size of a field. Maybe I can, shrink the separation to the property lines, but I can't give on public health separation to drinking water. That is something that you cannot give on. So, there's only so much things you can give on.
Right.
And you certainly can't give on that 50-foot separation to the neighbor's well. So it becomes, a very, very high-stakes game of what do we do to this person's investment.
As you're thinking about water safety, water purity, the health of Wayne County residents, over the next year or so, talk about the things that you want to focus on. What do we need to know? What do we need to be thinking about? I know in other parts of the country, you go out west, it's dry, they're concerned, they don't have the snowfall that they need. Forest fires are going. I was listening to the Weather Channel this morning down in Texas. They've got blazes going because it's so dry. It seems like we are not getting the water in some of the areas that we need, and we're not protecting that resource, and we're not conserving that resource maybe the way we need to be thinking about it?
In Indiana, I don't think that we're at a critical point like we are out west and in the South. But sure, water conservation is always something, that we should look at. We've always, since I was very young, and I talk about, we're talking about Earth Day and what we're doing for Earth Day. My mom took me to one of the very first Earth Days at Ball State when I was really little. I'm not sure it was the first Earth Day, but it had to be either the first or the second Earth Day, because I wasn't in school yet. And I can remember how just exciting it was to be on Ball State's campus and around all of the celebration. And it probably led to me going into the career that I went into. But it was very exciting to me, and I love Earth Day, and it's as exciting as an adult, for me as any day of the year. And I always try to plan something, very exciting. And we've got something planned this year, not as big as I normally go for Earth Day, but it's bigger than we've done in the past couple of years. So I'm very excited to get back.
You've had a few things on your mind.
In the swing of things. Well, everything's been closed for 2 years. So I was very excited that the Cope Center allowed us to do something.
Talk a little bit about Earth Day, April 22nd.
April 22nd.
Talk a little bit about what and this is going to be, we were mentioning Cope earlier in the show and their waterways exhibit. I assume you've had a chance to take a peek. Talk about your impressions of that and what you have planned for Earth Day out there.
Yeah, we're going to be out there at the Cope Center, and I encourage everyone to go out there and take a look at their exhibit. It is a wonderful exhibit. And, we're just tagging on there with them with our water event. This year, Earth Day nationally is Invest in the Planet. And so we kind of just tagged on there, and it's our tag onto that is, and let's start with our water. And so we have invited a lot of experts from the state to come. So we'll not only just have us there locally to talk about our ordinance that we've presented to the Board of Health. People will be able to take a look at that ordinance and discuss it with us, and we'll answer any questions that people may have about the local ordinance. But we'll have state experts there that will talk about any questions, that they may have. We'll have free water testing there. So people can just bring a jug of their own water, and we'll have free nitrates testing there, and we'll have free arsenic testing. Those are two of the contaminants that we see in some of the rural places that I would like to look at to see, do we have problems here in Wayne County? I don't know, because we don't do a lot of testing. I would do bacteria and E. coli, but the problem is you have to have a clean water bottle, and I would have to send it home, and they would have to bring it back. So with nitrates and arsenic, they can just bring their own water in a container. So that's why we're doing it this way for this event. But we'll be hosting more and more free water sampling events through this year, because we are focusing on water sampling, and water testing, and getting the word out there that we want to look at the waterways of Marshall County, or Wayne County. I'm sorry about that. And we'll probably also do some water sampling of the waterways of Wayne County this summer, and maybe ask for volunteers to, if you're out and about and want to be one of our water samplers and know of some outfalls, to pull some water samples of outfalls along the river in Wayne County and bring it into us, and we'll do some water sampling along some of the tributaries and the river of Wayne County this summer.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, having a chance to spend some time with Christine Stinson, Executive Director of the Wayne County Health Department. We're going to have to turn the corner here in a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure that at this moment you have a chance to let Wayne County residents know everything you want them to know on this particular subject: water safety, water as a resource. Karin mentioned it, that we think about water. We don't think about water in terms of soil health, but those things intermix a great deal. And this being an agricultural community, it's tied together a great deal. So it stands to reason that from a public health standpoint, you would also be involved in water safety and letting people know how safe their water is or isn't. And it's not a matter of trying to scare people. It's just a matter of providing information.
Right. If you live on a well, you are your own municipality. I live in the city, so the city provides me clean water. That's their responsibility. But if you are live in a rural community and you live on a septic system and you live on a well, then it is your responsibility to make sure that you provide your family with a safe and wholesome product of your water. The city has to test their water several times a year, and you should be providing or ensuring that you are providing not only yourself but your family with a safe and wholesome product by testing your water. And I'm not saying test it several times a year, but you should be testing at least annually for bacteria. And with that, it's a one test, and it will test then for, if you have bacteria, it'll go on and test for E. coli if it pops for bacteria. So that's one test, and you'll know right away if you have bacteria and E. coli. And then we recommend about every 2 years to test for nitrates, and then every 3 years go ahead and test for arsenic.
If you need more information about this, how do they reach you or whoever your environmental specialist is at the Wayne County Health Department?
Boy, if you haven't seen our new website, it is just a plethora of information. So we got a new website up and running about 3 weeks ago, and it has everything on there. It has just a little tab of contact us. Just type your information in there. It goes straight into, just a magic portal, and it goes exactly by the subject matter. It will go to the subject matter expert.
Okay.
So you just put it in there, and it will go to who it needs to go to.
Sounds good.
It's a beautiful, beautiful website. Our health educator, Angela McDaniel, did a wonderful job on the website. So I want to give a shout out to her for all the hard work she did on that.
Cool. Be sure to check that out. I'm sure we'll pull that up, and probably you'll be seeing it on the screen probably as she's talking about it.
It's exact same. Our website didn't change. It's www.co.wayne.in.us, and you'll be able to navigate down to the health department.
If you go to the offices directory, there's a long list. Look for the health department. Click on that.
Yep.
All right. When I met you, I had a chance to talk to you and Dr. Jetmore back in very early 2020. It was maybe mid-February or so. And almost after that, the pandemic hit. We've spent a lot of time talking about it. We have come out of what was, I think, an extended rough period. In talking with Dr. Jetmore, Dr. Huth, as we had on Ask the Doctors, almost in July, August of last year, we started seeing a spike. It got incredibly heavy. The entire state went red. Now we're looking at a point where the entire state almost looks to be blue. The health emergency in the state has ended. Talk about where we are, talk about what changes this now creates for our residents as well as the health department.
Yeah. So Wayne County's been blue for 3 weeks. This will be our 4th week. In blue, we're at a 0.5, looking good. We're bouncing around just a little bit, from like a 1.9. Today we're 2.2. Nothing to get too nervous about, just little blips. But looking good. I would encourage people to, if you're sick, stay home. If you don't, regardless of whether you think that it is COVID or not, it's just
better to be safe than sorry, as it were.
Well, goodness sake, if you're sick, stay home. Why get everybody else sick? Regardless of what bug it is. But there is a second variant of the Omicron in the United States. It's popping up in different places. So we are, watching that. I would say, allow us to watch that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I think I hit my mic. Allow us to watch that and just kind of enjoy this time and maybe not worry so much about what's going on with it. Of course, if you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. So when the fall hits, and we will more than likely have another surge, just like we did in the fall, it won't be like it was, where our hospital systems get overwrought and overrun, like we were. So the more people that we get vaccinated, when you're ready for your booster, get your booster. I think that you will see where there will be an allowance of the second booster as people.
I heard that there was talk, I think through Pfizer, of maybe a second booster.
For 65 and older.
Okay.
And then I think Moderna has applied for 18 and older. So we'll see how that plays out. I just recommend that, when you're ready for your booster, go ahead and get your booster so we can keep surges down and allow us to return to normalcy and not overrun our hospital systems. I think that the concern and the problems arise when our healthcare systems are overrun.
Right.
And we start to get really, really worried about what do we do when we can't care for other diseases other than COVID. So the more people that we can get vaccinated, the better our community is as a whole. So I would recommend that in this downtime, if you're not vaccinated, go ahead and get vaccinated. And if you're ready for your booster, go ahead and get your booster. Our vaccination clinic is still open. We're still doing vaccinations daily from 9 o'clock. We take our last walk-in at 3:30. But you can still make appointments.
And you're doing that at the health department right now? Gravity Diagnostics, I think that's the name of the group that has been working out of the Elder Bierman building. Doesn't seem to be as much traffic around there. I know, are they moving on? Is it coming back to you? What's happening with that particular site?
Right. So the state has ended their contract with Gravity Diagnostic across the state, and our site will close on March the 30th. And we've decided that we'll just close the Elder Bierman building and move all testing back to the health department. We will do testing the way that we used to do it, where we'll have designated spots that will say, COVID testing, park here, call this number, we'll come out and we'll test you in your car.
Okay. What else do you want people to know? Anything from the health department that you all have? We have about 4 minutes left. I want to make sure that whatever it is that you feel like this community needs to know from a public health standpoint, you're able to pass along. You've gotten through the school year. At one point, vaccinations for school-age children were down. Are you seeing those come up? Should people be thinking about what
Sure.
happens over the next
Yeah.
few months? And
We're so that COAG grant, we're working with all of the schools to get clinics out there. I think that at last I looked, we have 9 clinics scheduled with the schools to get in with the schools, to get kids caught back up. If that doesn't work with the parents, you can come to the health department and make an appointment. Make an appointment with your doctor, but let's get everybody worked back up and back on track with all of the childhood immunizations. The last thing that we want to see is outbreaks of measles, mumps, rubella, some of those childhood illnesses that, cause blindness, deafness, some of these other horrific childhood illnesses that we used to see, back in the 60s and 70s that we've basically eradicated through immunizations. So we're working hard to get everybody back up to speed there. On the Monday the 28th, we have a workshop for septic installers. We will be working on designs with septic installers, how to design a septic system, to meet current requirements on septics. That is out at the Coleman Center, and we've had a pretty good response with that. That's a regional training, so we've reached out to all of the counties
nice.
Surrounding us. So we're looking forward to that. We have that new infant mortality grant that is up and running now.
Okay.
And we have developed a FEMUR team. So that is getting ready to have its first
FEMUR
meeting.
team.
That is a fetal infant mortality review team. So
Okay.
that'll meet like quarterly, and we'll look at, and that's all of the counties that are in our region. Every fetal and infant death will be reviewed, and we'll kind of see, was there gaps in services, how could this death been prevented? So that's something that we're hoping to get up and running and going before the end of summer.
Minute and a half or so left. Your van is still out. I know that you were taking it to Hagerstown and Fountain City and the Gole Center. Are you still making stops like that around the county with the van for immunizations or anything of that nature?
So that was going out a lot doing testing, and we are up and going. That will be going out to the schools with the immunization clinics. And that will be going to the fair this summer. That will be going out, working with the communities, back out, going to do immunizations and all of that.
Okay.
It's a very useful little tool. We had at one time how many immunizations we had done in that, and it was over 3,000.
Nice.
Since we
Just
got
out of
it.
the mobile
Yeah.
unit.
Just
Okay.
out of the mobile unit. Yeah.
Christine Stinson, Executive Director, Wayne County Health Department. Be sure to catch her and her staff at Earth Day, Cope Environmental Center,
Yeah.
between 1 and 3.
1 and
You all
3.
will be there. Earth Day may be going on more than that, but you'll be there between 1 and 3, doing water testing and other things, and obviously check out the new website.
Check out the new website. If between 1 and 3 you can't make it there and you still want a free water sample that day, go ahead and just bring it to the health department because those water samples won't go out until later in that day. So we will make it happen for you. And if I don't see you before April the 22nd, happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day to you, too. Once again, I want to thank my guests, Karin Hostetter, Gail Connerley, and Christine Stinson. Also, want to remind you that if you have not had a chance to see the Waterways exhibit, you can check that out at Cope Environmental Center. It's available Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, once again, visit the Cope website, copeenvironmental.org. As Karin said, there are 2 E's in that. And the Waterways exhibit is going on through April 9th. This is the last weekend for Richmond Civic Theater's main stage production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Go out and check that out. Support some live local theater. If you need ticket information, go to gorct.org. Some information from the Richmond Parks and Recreation Department. If you're in the mood to help them clean up, this is a cleanup weekend, the 25th, tomorrow. Friday, actually, from 9 to 3, they're cleaning up Middle Fork Cove. And then Saturday, from 10 to 2, it's Middle Fork Reservoir Service Area. The parks are providing some water, gloves, trash bags, and some other things. They need you to wear long pants. They need you to wear closed-toed shoes. Bring bug spray if you can. And also, if you want to use your own gloves, you can definitely do that. You can tell spring has sprung. They are taking reservations for shelters for the various areas in the park system, and you can do it online, parks.richmondindiana.gov, or you can also do it in person. Their office is located in Glen Miller Park. If you need to give them a call, 983-7275. The Parks Department is also still hiring. A lot of people are. Parks Department. Part-time, maintenance laborer, floral laborer, marketing and development coordinator, and a couple of others. You see those there on the screen. Also full-time, a maintenance supervisor, a maintenance laborer, and an administrative assistant. You can probably do that online also. And you can also tell that winter is beginning to come to an end because we are heading into our final month, basically, of the Winter Farmers Market, which is available through April from 9 to 12, Star Jeanette Historic Site, 101 South 1st Street in Richmond. That's 9 to 12 every Saturday. Again, if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. If you're looking for a free COVID shot, you can get a vaccine. The Reed Health Vaccine Clinic has moved. They are now at their residency clinic, 795 Simhagen Parkway in Richmond. They do have walk-in hours, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4:30, Friday from 8 to noon. You can call and schedule an appointment, 765-965-4200. Demystifying the creative collaborative process. You can check that out. How to forge your own opportunities. Nathan Froby, Nick May doing that. That's happening March 3rd, 3:30 in Springwood Hall, room 217, or on Zoom. Thank you very much for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. Be sure to check out replays on our video on demand site, wgtv.vibit.com. As always, I wish you well.